Today, the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. The scripture presents to us the story of a poor widows who offered everything they had. We have always thought that poverty is a virtue. Poverty must be understood from the Christian perspective. Poverty is not to be mistaken with misery. The gospel does not extol misery, but rather poverty and simplicity. To be poor in spirit means to acknowledge that everything I am and have belongs to God. To be poor or poor in spirit means that I make all that I have available to God. To be poor and poor in spirit means that I recognize that I am only as rich as the poorest person around me. To be poor means that I am able to enter into the lives of the poorest of the poor and find myself there. To be poor means to assign dignity to every human person, immaterial of their world, power, race, and status. The Eucharist is a lesson in poor and poverty of the spirit. To be poor or poor in spirit is to be like Jesus in the Eucharist. Another name for the Eucharist is nothing but communion. Communion means sharing. Sharing, the fundamental principle of sharing, according to Kant's Lemaister, means that which is yours is mine, and that which is mine is yours. What is it that is original to the human person, if not frailty, sinfulness? What is original to Jesus? Holiness, grace. The minute that which is yours is mine, and that which is mine is yours, a sacred exchange takes place. Jesus gives me everything that makes him up and takes away everything that makes me up. So I become rich every time I encounter the person of Jesus. And this is true. Poverty is not just the absence of wealth. It's not the absence of material things. It can also be the fundamental absence of mental acumen. It can be the deficiency of the vision that makes us to realize that the other person too is a human being. I have been to parties, I have been to functions where we have a buffet setting, and you see people that we perceive to be rich. They dress in fine clothes, but they are empty. The soul can be empty. What moves the human person to want to grab physical thing is the emptiness of the human person. The more you are empty, the more you long to fill yourself. This person has got all the money in this life. He has fine cars. He has all the protection. But then he comes to a buffet setting. He sees fried rice. He takes jollof rice. He puts it on his plate. He sees steamed rice. He puts it. Then he's moving. He sees fish. He takes the whole fish. Then the next thing he sees snail, he puts pomo, he puts shaki. Okporoko is there. By the time he's moving, you are tempted to ask, excuse me, sir, is this where we are dishing from? Because there is no difference from where he's dishing and the plate he's carrying. The one that treated me the most was when I went to this Chinese party. And this lady in front of me was just picking everything, green soup, everything. I was asking myself, are you aware that these people eat cockroach and all these things? She was packing. The one that shocked me the most, I couldn't hold myself, was when she took 2 pieces of cigar and I tapped her and said, excuse me, ma, do you smoke? He said, no. I said, this thing you have carried is cigar, that big cigar. He said, sorry, I didn't. I thought it was Sati's beef. I said, but you can see people smoking it, that big one. That is the emptiness of the human person. No matter what you have, you are still poor. Poverty, again, can be the absence of companionship, relationship. Like people will say, Igbos will say, you can't be in the midst of people. You are searching for a person. Like Akon once sang, he said, I'm lonely. In the midst of people, someone is lonely. It means excluded from your brothers and your sisters. One can still be poor. And that's why Pope Francis will say, the future of the global world is living together. This calls for the commitment to build bridges, to keep dialogue open, to continue to meet with one another. And this richness we can find even in the African culture. When in the African culture we say, Mbutu ngamutu ngabantu, moto ke moto kabato. A person is a person through others. Nelson Mandela, trying to comment on Ubuntu, said that a traveler through the country would stop at a village and he didn't have to ask for food or for water. Once he stops, the people give him food and entertain him. This is one aspect of Ubuntu, but it will have various aspects. Ubuntu does not mean that people should not enrich themselves. The question therefore is, are you going to do so in order to enable the community around you to be able to improve? Eze Onyebuchi once said that instead of the lived experience of Ubuntu as an ethical traditional ground in culture that inherited from the ancestors, but still dynamic and evolving in new forms, he looks to the lessons from the past to guide us in the present and to make sense of the future. If Jesus is praising this poor widow today, can we find such in our culture? Do we have this love? What is it that moves people to say they want to do charity? What is it that moves us to say, I want to touch the life of the other? According to Ubuntu, which is a philosophy of dialogue, he said that which moves every human being to be able to do charity, the first thing that moves you is dialogue. You are an individual, I'm individual, we are different. I don't eat fish, you like a fish. It does not make me condemn you. I need to engage you to know why you eat fish, why I like birds. The minute we engage in that dialogue, it enriches us. If I'm sitting in my house, you bring your fish, I bring my birds, we are going to be enriched, whether I eat it or not. Dialogue. He explained that it can embrace differences. The expression a person is a person through other people means that we are recreated anew and in every encounter with another, bringing each other the unique gift of humanity. Those gifts include our differences, which are worth celebrating and preserving. You enrich my life with your unique difference. He shares an experience. He was sent as a missionary to lepers, to the colony of lepers. Initially, he resisted. He was complaining, how can I be in the midst of the lepers? So on the first day, he put on gloves, garments, everything. He padded himself. First day, second day, he started looking at the life of these people. He begins to understand that these people are human beings who love. They are human beings too who get jealous. They fight, they gossip like every other human being. By the third day, they didn't go with gloves. They started removing their garments. They discovered that these things were not infectious. They started trying to understand. The minute they got the fact that these people were human beings, they started giving themselves to working with these people. They started liking them, embracing the work they did. By the time they want to leave 6 months, they had this kind of tears in their eyes because it's like, I miss this work. Have you ever given yourself out in such a way that you so much lived in the midst of these people whom you think are far less than you? You see that, you feel their experience, you live their life, you have this empathy towards them. And by the time you want to go, you cry. There's tears in your eyes, as if something within you is gone. You can't imagine, how can somebody be in this condition? This is the lesson of Ubuntu. We find our shared humanity in the encounter with the other. The marks of fear, suspicion, and strangeness are removed, and the gift becomes visible. Ubuntu does not ask that we erase the differences and become the same. No. It asks that we interpret others positively, recognizing that whatever our differences, our humanity is equal. No matter who that person is, no matter where that person is working, no matter how deficient we think that person is still a human being. And this must be the compelling force. It is an invitation to dialogue, to understand, even without agreement. And with understanding comes compassion. It comes tolerance, nobility, sharing. Sharing is divine, my dear friend. Sharing is divinity. And in the African context, food is divinity in African culture. So Ubuntu tells us, go and share food with the person you don't like. Sometimes it will shift. It helps you to have a shift. In dialogue, you need not come to agreement, but you will come to an understanding. I don't like this person, and I'll take my food to go and sit down with this person. The minute you are sitting, you are eating. You don't necessarily need to agree with that person, but you come to understand something about why this person is doing what he or she is doing, or why I don't like this person. With understanding comes pity, comes compassion, and now begin to say, oh, this is why this person is doing this. And understanding will now help you to have a better interface with that person. This women in the scripture, for instance, looking at the prophet or coming to the treasury, the poor understand what it means to suffer. And they are willing to give everything because they have been in that shoe themselves. Think, my dear friend, where you started from. Imagine how you were in the village, you were suffering. You were praying for the light of God to shine on you. Imagine all the beautiful ideas you had in the village then. Or when you were growing up, you said, if your life changed, you will ensure that you eradicate poverty in your community. Do you know how many of us spoke like that in growing up? I was in Ajegule then, and one man was so angry, criticizing that Ajegule has produced a lot of great minds in life. He can't understand why Ajegule is still a ghetto. That Ajegule ought to have been transformed. He was now saying, if the light shines upon him, he's going to transform Ajegule. Hearing this man, I was so thrilled. And I joined my own prayers to the prayers of others that God should shine his light on this man. And in Nigerian English, the man hammered. Nigerian English. As in hammer. To my greatest surprise, instead of changing Ajegule, he changed his address. He's living in Banana Island now. And this is life. Unless this will change, unless we understand the humanity of the other person. It's not about culture per se. Because scholars have often described Ubuntu as communal value, expressed as I am because we are. It does not suppress individuality. You see, in my opinion, neither communality nor individualism are given priority in African philosophy. They exist in harmony. To emphasize the communal, we at times reinforces the tribalism and the ethnocentric supremacy that leads to conflict, such as what occurred in Burundi and Rwanda, for an instance. Eze will suggest, therefore, that there must be a more appropriate way of expressing Ubuntu, which is, I am because you are. I am because you are. Not just I am because we are. This tribal sentiment and communal life at times. I don't help somebody unless the person is from my own part of the world. I can't help you unless you are attached, affiliated to me. No. I help you because you are a human being. That humanity binds us first before any other thing. The minute we cannot look, we look beyond, we cannot look beyond that human sentiment, it becomes a problem. The poor don't give because they are looking at who you are. No, they give because they know you are a human being and you are in need. And any human being who is in need deserves to be helped. And this must be our attitude. God loved us even before we realized it. God does not love us based on certain conditions. It's just like when a mother gives birth to a child. The mother does not love the child because the child behaves well. The mother does not love the child because the child has got specific qualities that are wonderful. No. The love for a mother, the love of a mother for a child is unconditional. It's not attached to anything. And this is the kind of love God has for us. He said, no greater love can a person have other than to lay down his life for the good of the other. If God will lay down his life for us, it's because of that sympathy. It's because of that understanding of our humanity. God does not want to save us outside our humanity, but he wants to save us within our humanity. And we need to understand this very well, because the desires of every human being is infinite. Unfortunately, everything in existence is finite. Nothing finite can fulfill the infinite desires of the other unless it is infinite. So the desires of the human person are insatiable without the grace of God. And this is what we must learn. And it is this grace that must move us to say that the other person lives. Think, my dear friends, you don't need to do something extraordinary. It's the little things of life that we do for the other person that add up to this grace. This woman he just said to the woman, give me a little bread. It can be a little word channeled towards the other. It can be helping the other person to find the right direction in life. You don't necessarily need to give money. Because once a person is rich in ideas and he can translate these ideas to praxis, that person can be rich. And this is where we are called to help each other, to give a sense of direction, sometimes to show the person where I found light, to give your brother the little push, to be charitable with that little words, that criticism. It can go a long way to redirect the human person, to show that mercy to that person when you have every reason to kill that person. And this is what I loved about what Campbell said. Glenn Campbell said, just try a little kindness. Show this little kindness. Even when the person has inflicted the pain on himself or herself. The fact that I know that this is a person that is struggling within himself, I stretch out my hands to help the person. We don't need competition. We don't need to compare ourselves with others. No. Futunshin once said that, see, a monkey was on top of the tree, and looking on one hot afternoon, he saw the fish swimming. And the monkey said, how I wish I was inside the water. My body would have been cool. Look at me, I'm compelled to jumping from one tree to another in the scorching sun. The fish looked up and saw the monkey jumping from one tree to another and said, oh, how I wish I was just like the monkey. I can jump from one tree to another. I will see the whole world. Look at me, I'm confined to water all my life. God heard their prayer and said, change. The monkey entered the water. The fish went on top of the tree. What do you think will happen to them? The best cannot be seen. Don't wish that you are the other person. The fact that that person is putting on Ogbede, is dressing well. You don't know what is going on inside him. They say cloth covers a lot of things. You see a woman, she's very fine. You admire her. See, have sympathy at times. Because you don't know everything she's going through just to bring her that beauty. One woman told me when she was quarreling with the husband, he said, Father, it was then I know that they used to tie themselves with one tube or something. It took me time before I knew that all the things on their head is not their natural hair. It took me time. But when you see them, they look so fine. But when they remove everything, you know, sometimes when they stay, they are enduring. By the time they remove that tube, I did not say anything. So be careful what you wish for. Rather, let compassion move us to reach out to the other. As you go out this week, try those little things. Those things that helps us to see the misery of the other. Don't blind yourself to the other person. Always remember the other person is a human being, if for nothing. That person at your gate is a human being. That person selling in the market is a human being. That bus conductor, that driver is a human being. If for nothing, be moved by the fact that every human being deserves a better life. I end my reflection with the song of Green Campbell. Try a little kindness. If you see your brother standing by the road with a heavy load from the seed he sowed, and if you see your sister falling by the way, just stop and say, you're going the wrong way. You've got to try a little kindness. Yes, show a little kindness. Just shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, then you overlook the blindness of the narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets. I pray that the good Lord will grant us the grace so that as we go out this week, may we have the courage to try little kindness, and may the little things we do this week bring upon His grace upon us through Christ our Lord.